It all started with a school anniversary celebration, uncovering a horrifying secret. It was a time capsule buried underground for 50 years, containing letters left by students from half a century ago. The older teachers distributed these letters to the new students of the school. However, something strange happened to a young boy. He received a paper with mysterious numbers written on it. When the boy returned home, he showed the paper to his father, a physics professor at MIT who was also extremely sensitive to numbers. Curious, the father began to study the seemingly random numbers. Cage, the boy's father, singled out a set of numbers and attempted to organize them into groups. He discovered that the first group seemed to correspond to a date, 010911, which was the date of the shocking 9/11 terrorist attacks. Cage quickly looked up the details of the 9/11 attacks and was astonished to find that the death toll matched the second group of numbers on the paper, 2996.
Come on.
With excitement, Cage wrote all the remaining numbers on a whiteboard. As he searched for each number online, he realized that the dates and death tolls listed matched the dates and death tolls of all disasters that had occurred in the past 50 years. The only difference was that there were a few extra numbers at the end of each group, the meaning of which Cage could not fathom at the moment. Finally, there were a few sets of numbers left that corresponded to future dates. According to the prophecy implied by these numbers, there would be 81 deaths tomorrow. Cage, eager to share his startling discovery, told his best friend, but he dismissed it as Cage's imagination running wild. Undeterred, Cage decided to prove his theory. He stayed up all night watching the news on TV. When the date written on the paper arrived, there was no news of any disaster on TV, but it was also a day of heavy rain. Cage was about to pick up his son from school when a severe traffic jam occurred. While waiting, he called his friend to apologize for possibly overreacting. However, at that moment, he glanced at the GPS coordinates displayed on his car's navigation system and realized they matched the mysterious numbers on the paper. It suddenly dawned on Cage that the extra numbers represented the locations of the disasters. If the prophecy was true, the next disaster would occur nearby. Quickly getting out of the car, Cage asked a police officer if there had been any casualties. But before he could finish his question, a horrifying event unfolded in the next second. This was a disaster prophesied 50 years ago. With the exact time, location, and death toll precisely written by a little girl on a piece of paper. Cage immediately checked the news reports and found that the death toll was exactly 81 people, matching the prophecy on the paper. Even more terrifying was the realization that, according to the remaining numbers, the next disaster would occur in 2 days with a death toll rising to 178 people. Determined to prevent the next disaster, Cage began searching for the girl who had written the prophecy 50 years ago. However, the girl had grown old and passed away, and Cage found no clues. With no other option, he decided to go to the predicted location himself. Little did he know that it was a crowded subway station. Trying his best to prevent the disaster, Cage soon spotted a suspicious man dressed in black. Believing that the man was planning a terrorist bomb attack, Cage chased him vigorously. But when he caught him, he discovered that he was just an ordinary thief. At that moment, the real disaster unfolded. A speeding train suddenly derailed and crashed into the densely populated platform. Fortunately, Cage survived the disaster, realizing that he couldn't change anything, but that night, unexpectedly, the prophet's daughter reached out to him.
You said October 19th? My mother used to talk about that day all the time.
This woman lives in fear every day, solely because her mother prophesied 50 years ago that she would die in a car accident tomorrow. Beth, unwilling to accept the fate of her life ending so abruptly, sought out Cage, who was studying these prophecies. Through Cage's investigation, it was discovered that every disaster prophesied by Beth's mother had occurred with remarkable accuracy over the past 50 years. Determined to find a way to break the prophecy, Beth and Cage quickly made their way to Beth's mother's old house, a place untouched for decades. As they entered the bedroom, they were astonished to find the walls covered with various prophecies and newspaper clippings related to the accidents. This further verified the authenticity of the prophecies. Shortly after, Cage discovered a message left by Beth's mother under the bed, revealing the ultimate prophecy that pointed to a horrifying outcome. The final disaster would be the end of humanity. Suddenly, the sound of a speeding car interrupted them. As they ran outside, Cage found a mysterious figure in dark clothing not far away. He chased after the figure, brandishing a gun, but the mysterious person suddenly opened their mouth wide. A few dazzling bursts of white light later, the figure had mysteriously vanished in place. Cage didn't have time to investigate the origins or intentions of the dark-clad figure. He suddenly remembered his own own research on solar flares, and after a series of data analysis, he scientifically proved that the end of the world was indeed happening. The most important task at hand was to come up with a way to save humanity. So Cage hurriedly sought out the teacher of Beth's mother. From the teacher, he learned that there was a string of mysterious numbers etched on the door of the school's warehouse by Beth's mother. Cage then went to the school and found the wooden door in question. After scraping off the paint, he discovered the mysterious digits etched upon it. Cage quickly entered the numbers into his device to query the coordinates and was shocked to find that the location was the exact spot where Beth's mother's old house stood. Beth was preparing to take her 2 children to the underground shelter when she went to the supermarket to stock up on supplies. That was when the mysterious dark-clad figure appeared again. Beth could only watch in horror as her children were driven away. At that moment, the television broadcast an announcement about the impending end of the world, and chaos had already broken out on the streets. Beth eventually couldn't escape the prophecy and was killed in a car accident while trying to retrieve her children. Cage pursued the dark-clad figure in his car and was surprised to find himself at Beth's mother's old house. It turned out that these mysterious figures were actually aliens who had foreseen Earth's disaster. They had come to Earth to save the humans who were on the brink of extinction. Beth's daughter and Cage's son were chosen as the lucky ones to survive the apocalypse under Cage's watch. With Cage watching, the aliens took the 2 children away from Earth. The city and its streets were in chaos as the end of the world drew near. On this final day, Cage just wanted to be with his family. As the solar flare erupted, a devastating wave of heat swept across the entire planet. Spelling the end of humanity's Earth. But on another beautiful planet, the 2 children would continue to carry on the human race's legacy.